Now, the very moment when Hamas launched the massive attack on Israel, the situation was doomed to escalate and spiral out of their control. Over 450 have already been killed in Hamas attack and Israeli retaliation. Common people caught in the crossfire are suffering the worst here. In the next few minutes, we take a look at the lives of common people on both sides. The situation on the ground is very disturbing and we advise viewer discretion for this report. Now, these are moments when heavily armed Hamas militants barged into Israeli settlements in southern Israel. They were hunting for common residents for taking hostages. The hostages will be used for bargaining later. This is the moment Hamas fighters barged into homes looking for people they can take hostage. Armed men roaming residential streets, barging into homes as people run to hide. Now, another video from inside Gaza surfaced. Take a look at this, where an injured woman was being held in Gaza City as militants take Israeli hostages. She's pulled out of the vehicle, held by her hair, dragged in front, and now shoved into the vehicle after that. These are armed men targeting civilians in Israel. At least 20 men manhandling one woman, shoving her back into the vehicle and taking her away. Now, take a look at this next visual. In Israel's Sderot, multiple videos emerged showing multiple bodies and bullet-scarred vehicles as of Hamas gunmen were still fighting the Israeli troops. The bodies of Israeli civilians also laid strewn across a highway in Sderot, surrounded by broken glass. The aftermath of a deadly battle. Those who suffer the most are the common civilians.
נכנסתי לאינטרנט, ראיתי שיש חדירה של מחבלים, עוד לא ידעתי מה באמת הולך, מה קורה, אתם יכולים לראות ברקע אפילו יש את הגופות שלהם, ואחר כך יצאתי לשטח, התחלתי להסתובב וראיתי מלא גופות של מחבלים, של אזרחים, מכוניות מפוצצות.
Hospitals and other medical centers were overcrowded on both sides as thousands of those injured were rushed to get medical help.
We saw that our forces were already outside. My friend left from above. I couldn't move. I guess I have something in my back from the stress because I sat for 2.5 hours on the slope without moving. My legs were folded, so no, it's a bit hard for me to stand up and walk. And then she left and was immediately taken by a car. And then I left from the other side and soldiers took us to the buses. There's no one like the IDF.
The Hamas attack on Israel comes as the biggest in decades. Bodies have started piling up on both the sides as the conflict rages on. The dead were being carried for burial on both the sides, even as bombings tore apart towns and cities. All right, for more, we are being joined by our correspondent Jody Cohen from a bomb shelter in Israel. And she gets us more updates from the ground to understand the gravitas of what it's like being in the war zone currently.
Over the past 24 hours, we've seen thousands of rockets fired from Hamas in Gaza into Israel, including during the night at a major hospital in the south. We've seen ground fighting in 22 locations. More than 300 Israelis have been killed, mostly civilians, including children, one regional mayor, and also some soldiers, including one senior officer, and 1,600 Israelis have been injured. I've spoken to a paramedic in Sderot who's been treating the injured continually and picking up bodies throughout the night. I've also been speaking to residents who say that they've been inside with their doors locked for the past 24 hours. Now, Hamas has taken dozens of hostages in Israel and to Gaza, including a grandma, young children and disabled people. We've seen harrowing clips on social media that are just too horrific to be shown on TV. Israel has rescued some of the hostages in Israel. It's taken back, for example, a police station that had been overrun. But the fighting continues and Hamas has threatened to extend it to the West Bank and to Jerusalem. And in the latest on Sunday morning, we've seen explosions into northern Israel from Lebanon, and the IDF is responding with strikes. The IDF has struck Hamas targets in Gaza, killing 230, which it says are mostly combatants, and has warned civilians to take shelter. It stopped the transfer from Israel of electricity, fuel and goods into Gaza to try and limit their strikes. And Israel has declared a state of emergency across the whole country, with everything shut, people staying home, and commentators are comparing it to Israel's 9/11.
We also spoke to a student from Gaza on the phone line. Listen in to what he had to say.
So today morning at 6 a.m. In Palestinian Standard Time, like everyone in this area who was following the news, he's surprised about what happened when we saw the footage and the news coming out that Palestinian resistance crossed the border between Gaza and Israel, and they attack or raid the Israeli settlement. So most of people, they were so happy and surprised how that possible, how it could be. But for me, I got shocked. I thought I'm watching series or I'm watching as a film drama. So I couldn't believe in what happened. I thought these kind of fake news or these kind of footage, it's really fake. After some time when the news coming out and followed from the other Palestinian reporter and citizen journalist, so I realized that how the situation is terrible and what will happen, especially when the Palestinian resistance, they killed the Israeli people, settler, and who arrested Israeli soldier, and this footage, it was filmed from Gaza as well when they arrested some Israeli soldiers. That was a really terrible situation about what will happen now, how Israel will respond, because as you know, civilian who is always the victim of war, not soldier. Soldier, ultimately, they are trained people, they know how to deal with such kinds of situation, but civilian people who's always the victim of the war between any kind of part of the war, of the conflict. So now after 4 p.m. Israel start intensively bombing Gaza, like blindly bombing Gaza. There is, I confirm you, there is no one single safe place in Gaza. Even the telecommunication infrastructure, it got damaged. There is no power, there is no electricity now in Gaza, and I can't contact with my family. I'm facing really hardly. I'm able to contact them to be assured how is they are safe or no, as well as the internet service, it's come down and slow, it's incredibly so hardly the information coming out from Gaza bombing. But when they told me and when I able to contact them, they said there is no single place without didn't hit by Israel. All the area they got bombed by Israeli airstrike, and really incredibly, you can't imagine how is the voice of the bombing and how is the voice of Israelis rocket, as well as people are confused in Gaza now after that what happened since morning. They were so happy, and now everyone he or she scared, children screaming, old people, they can't do anything. What they will do in front of these kind of bombing, or in front of these kind of airstrike. So what I could be able to say now, the situation is really escalated and the violence is going to increase more and more.